working because I am an old man and I need to see those things. Also don't know if I went on my right account. Here we go. Okay. Oh, look at that, just in time. Hey, Lacey! Oh, wait, hold on. Can't quite hear you. Hold on.
Hey.
Oh, there we go. Okay, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing a live stream with the ultimate reality TV supervillain, so that's not something everybody could say.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I love the Rock of Love logo behind you, by the way.
That's just to compensate for the fact that my place is a mess.
Hey, that works for me. How's it going? How's your day so far?
Quite busy, unfortunately, but I thank you for coming. I know that, you have a lot to do considering I've seen a whole bunch going on your channel with the Talk of Love and Storm TV and whatnot. So I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join me.
You're so welcome. Well, I want to extend the thank you to you as well. I know you're also very busy, and I appreciate you inviting me to come on to your show.
First off, before I even get into questioning, I gotta say, wherever this fountain of youth that you have stored, you must tell me where it is and how to use it properly. Because I am in dire need.
You're too kind. You're too kind. I always tell people to get lots of sleep every night, drink lots of water, definitely have fun, have a shot of vodka every once in a while, and you'll look beautiful forever.
Well, that just means I have to up my vodka intake, but
that's what I say. Yeah, Tito's specifically. That's the trick.
No, seriously,
Yeah.
Rock of Love was about, 16 years ago, and you don't look like 16 minutes since the finale has passed, so good on you.
You're so sweet. I feel like a lot of the Of Love stars, I don't know what it is, but since I've been doing the podcast, I've interviewed so many people from these shows, and I myself am finding that not only does the majority of the people look incredible, but some of them even look better than they did on the shows. I'm like, how is that even possible? But to be totally honest with you, here's what I think. I honestly think that if you are one of the types of people that just doesn't take yourself too seriously, doesn't take life too seriously, you got to laugh a lot, you got to be silly. There is definitely an upside to being crazy, and being crazy means you don't care, you're going to have fun, doesn't matter, you're going to laugh. And I really, really think that is huge. In all seriousness, I think that is a huge element to, look at Betty White. Oh my God, she looked incredible till the day she died, and she is just a fun person, So I think that has something to do with it as well.
Crazy takes you places in life.
What, that crazy does take you places in life. That's true. Indeed.
It's really funny. Before I had you on, I was speaking with my family, and I brought this up in passing, and my mother goes, "Oh God, tell me it's not the redhead." I was like, "Yeah,
I get that a lot.
That's the one." But so everyone knows that reality TV is not as real as the title of the genre would make you believe. So my question to you is, and I'm sure you've had to, I want to apologize in advance, you're probably going to have to answer a bunch of boring questions that you've had to answer for the last 16 years of your life.
Oh no, that's okay. I love it. So you can't there are no boring questions. I love it. I'll answer the same thing 5,000 times. It's all good.
Okay, good to know. I'll try to keep them interesting though. So from your experience on Rock of Love, how real was Rock of Love?
That is a really, really good question. And I will say that it's definitely not scripted. They don't give you a script and say, hey, say this, or hey, do this, or, we want you to be this kind of person. A lot of it depends on the individual, because some people went onto the shows feeling like, Brett was really there for love, or Flavor Flav was really there for love. And so a lot of people really were invested in this. And unfortunately, a few of them ended up kind of leaving feeling like they were duped, and a handful of people definitely kind of felt like they were a little bit traumatized from the shows, because they went in there thinking this was more of like a documentary kind of thing, And I was really lucky because I've been in entertainment forever. I was in the music industry for, decades, And so I am aware, like when there's a camera there, it's time to be on, So, I think what usually ends up happening is the producers will see somebody being a certain way, and they'll definitely encourage that. And like, I call the producers the puppet masters, because they definitely like,
that's what some people would call things. You.
What's that?
I said that's ironic because that's what some people would call you.
Yes, that is true as well. And when it's funny because when, like, I'd say maybe like the 5th day or so that we were filming, one of the producers kind of grabbed me off the set, like, "Hey, Lacey, come here." It was really funny because the producers almost like seemingly just appeared from like behind the walls. I'm like, "Where'd you come from?" It was really funny how their involvement was. And I just remember it was like the 5th or so day that I was there filming Rock of Love. One of the producers pulls me aside, and I swear to God, I got like a flashback from when I was in school, and like your teacher pulls you out of class to send you to the principal's office. I was like, "Oh no, I was too villainous. I'm going to get in trouble." Like, I really thought I was in trouble. And they pulled me aside, and they're like, "Hey, we just want to tell you, like, you're doing a great job. Please keep it up." And they actually had one of the heads of VH1 was there visiting as well, visiting the set. And they introduced me to that person and just, "You're doing a great job, keep it up." So they definitely encourage certain things, especially some of the fights, like, they really wanted the girls to like engage in the drama. So they definitely had a little hand at that. Like maybe if somebody was talking shit and one of the other girls couldn't hear, the producers would make sure that person knew that they were being talked shit about, So yeah, so it wasn't real in the sense that we weren't given a script, but the producers definitely had a lot of manipulation. They encouraged things to go a certain way. And then I think the only time they would kind of hand you a line here or there was in the or the confessionals, or sometimes they're called on the flies, where you're in the little room and you're talking to, the person behind the camera, breaking the fourth wall, as they say. That would be the only time they'd kind of give you a line or two to say. But generally, they just kind of let you run with whoever you are, however you are. They let you do your thing.
So like when you guys got in there, did they have like a character of sorts for each and every girl, where did they try to get certain things out of you guys in particular? Because it seemed like, well, or I guess it could have been done by the power of editing as well. It seemed like they were trying to make everybody, a certain type of character. So like,
yeah, I think that they honestly just cast it that way.
Okay.
Because they definitely had like the stripper types, and then they had like the ditzy blonde, and they had the villain character, and they, I think that they definitely had this, but they didn't tell us, "We want you to be like this or that." A lot of people ask me like, "Oh, were you just, edited poorly?" I'm like, "Nope, that was all me." But I specifically went in there because I was a huge fan of not only Flavor of Love, but the shows that came prior to Flavor of Love, like Surreal Life. Do you remember those? Or Strange Love?
Oh my God, love those shows. I'm actually planning on covering all the VH1 reality shows here on the channel.
Oh my God, I'm definitely going to watch that. By the way, I just want to interject really quick. My husband and I are obsessed with 2.5 Men. I think we've seen every episode probably 15 times, and up until the Ashton Kutcher, then we like, we're like, we can't do this. But we love our Charlie Sheen. But I love the episode that you did on 2.5 Men. I actually watched that recently, and it was really, really good. I loved your take on it. That was really fun.
Awesome, thank you kindly. That's crazy. I'm a fan of your work as well.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's
But yeah, so I watched, back to your question, I did watch Flavor of Love. I was such a big fan, and still am a big fan of New York specifically. I thought she was just hysterical and so ballsy. And so when I went on to Rock of Love, it's funny because at first I didn't want to do the show. I had met the person who was casting for it somewhere along the way, but I was really still heavily involved in my band and music and touring and all that. And I was like, and about my music career, I was all like, worried and shit. And so I remember talking to the casting person, like, "I don't know if this is a good move for me to do a reality TV show." And he was like, "You know what, just audition. And after you audition, you can always say no." And I'm like, that's a good point. So I auditioned, I got the show, and I kind of was like, wait, what am I doing? Like, this is a once in a life opportunity, and I'm too up my own ass to like. I'm worried about saying no. Like, when do you get an opportunity like this? You know? So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go for it. Am I allowed to curse, by the way? Sorry, I'm such a potty mouth.
Yeah, you were gonna learn that with my next question anyway.
Okay, good deal. But yeah, so when I went on Rock of Love, I very much was influenced by New York from Flavor of Love. And I went on and I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it big and I'm going to go all out. So I really wanted to do this villain character, but I kind of wanted to be more of like a prankster than anything, like throwing girls in the pool. I wasn't there to like, break anyone's spirit. Like I wasn't trying to say that anybody was like fat or ugly or insult their mom or their kids or anything like that. I really was just there to just get under everybody's skin, and I feel like I did a good job with that.
Yeah, I think more than Bret Michaels, when I think of Rock of Love, like literally the first name that I think of is you. So
well, thank you. And that was definitely what I was setting out to do. And so when people asked me if it was edited, I was like, well, I guess a couple of things were edited, but that villain character was definitely very much something I was consciously going for.
Do you feel like anybody was misrepresented by the editing? Like if they weren't fitting into the character that they were supposed to be, the show made it so?
Are you talking about for Rocket of Love specifically, or any of the Of Love shows?
Right now I'm talking about Rock of Love. But if you have if you have an antidote from any of the other ones, that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, well, I've definitely learned a lot just through the podcasts, through Talk of Love, just interviewing so many of the characters. But as far as Rock of Love goes, I feel like everybody was portrayed pretty accurately. I feel like you really got a good feel of everyone's personality. One thing I've learned also about, through interviewing all these people is a lot of the cast really has impressed me, because I didn't really get to know them when I was on the show because they all hated my guts, and to be totally honest with you, I am shocked that any of them wanted to come onto my podcast. But usually after you spend like 5 minutes with me, you're like, okay, I understand who Lacey actually is, not Lacey the person, not Lacey the Rock of Love character. So in interviewing all these people, these cast members, it made me aware how much these people really have impressed me. When they're on the reality show, it's as if they're one-dimensional, and you think when you turn your TV off, then they like somehow disappear into the, they vanish. But when you learn about like who these people are, and you learn about their careers and their ambitions and the things that they've accomplished in life and their families and their marriages and all that stuff, there's a lot of the girls have really, really impressed me. Sam from Rock of Love One, who had like the rocker chick with the sleeve, like she's a teacher at a university. I mean, so many of them have done really cool stuff. Christy Joe from Rock of Love season 2, she not only like modeled for Playboy, but she also like was one of the heads working for Google and knows like SEO and all this like technical stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see the three-dimensional people who they are outside the show. They're pretty cool people. It's been fun to get to know them.
How different is real life Lacey from reality TV Lacey?
Well, overall, I would say quite different, but there is definitely a Rock of Love Lacey in real Lacey for sure. Like that side is 100% there. That was not faked. It's there. What I tell people is the difference is that part makes up maybe like 5% of my personality. And I took that 5% and put it on 100% of the time on Rock of Love. So, we all have like our inner asshole, so you basically just take that mischievous, sarcastic asshole self, and you just put it on full throttle, display the entire filming of the show. But in real life, you would be shocked to know I'm actually pretty laid back and pretty easygoing. It takes a lot to get me rattled. I've been married to my first husband, happily married since 2013, so it's, generally speaking, I just like to have fun and be silly, and I think I'm a pretty nice person, but I definitely have that asshole in there. It's there for sure. You just won't see it very often.
You're nothing like the character you play on reality TV.
Usually not. Most of the time not.
No, I could understand that. The one thing that Because I didn't know if it was a case of the producers themselves getting involved, or it's the fact that they intelligently put a bunch of drunk women in a room together. So on the first night, like almost immediately, everyone breaks up into cliques. Was that like natural, or was that a behind the scenes thing?
Yes, it was so natural. And it was really funny because it was like almost like a little mini social experiment in a weird way, even though it wasn't designed for that. It was totally going back to like junior high school cliques, you know? And so basically, what they do when you show up on Rock of Love, first of all, you have everything taken away from you. You have like your cell phone taken away, books, magazines, you can't listen to the radio or watch TV or check your email or any of that.
Oh
Because
my God, it's
basically,
like prison.
it's really bizarre having all of that stripped from you. In fact, I remember, just a side note, I did I Love Money season 3, the infamous season that didn't air because
The one that never was.
What's that?
The one that never was.
Yes, the one that never was. Exactly. I'm going to turn the volume up just one quick second. Okay, I'm going to turn you up.
No worries.
So on that season, I remember we were in Mexico, and they took everything from us. And I just remember, and I'm a news junkie, side note, and I just remember going like, there could be some crazy catastrophic event in the world and we would have no idea. It's really weird being in the like cut off like that, but it's because I don't want to film you. I mean, imagine if we all had our cell phones, they would be filming us on staring at our phones all day. Like that wouldn't be good. So they take everything away from you, and then the first thing you notice is a fully stocked bar, like anything, any kind of alcohol, beer, wine, whiskey, vodka, it doesn't matter, whatever you want is there. If there's something that they don't have, they make like alcohol. Having the alcohol in the house is the producer's top priority. And if there's something you want that's not there, they will get it for you. So because they want everybody drinking, not only because when you're drinking you're going to be loose, but also you're going to be more feisty, and if there's going to be drama, it'll be because of the alcohol. So they definitely made an effort to have it so that we're all drinking all the time, constantly.
And also, if you're cut off from like the outside world, you have to find more fun things to do around the house, which makes for better TV for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was only so many times, like, I mean, pretty much, unless you're on a date with Brett or doing one of the challenges, there's actually a lot of downtime. So it's either like swim in the pool or do your nails and for the 500th time. Oh, but back to your question about the girls separating. So, I mean, you have to remember that before I did Rock of Love, I had toured a lot. And, being on tours, especially when, it's you plus the headliner band plus the opening band, and all three of you are touring together, and you're in a tour bus, so you don't have to worry about driving or getting yourself from city to city. So the bus just turns into like a crazy, just party time on wheels, And so I was so used to that kind of party atmosphere. So when I did Rock of Love, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like being on tour, but just in a house, And so we had, the girls that were like, they had a number of strippers, but then they had like what I call stick up their ass girls. And so what ended up happening is some of the girls who were wild, like taking off their tops and doing shots, because I'm like, I can't do my nails again, I'm so bored, let's go do a shot. You're bored, you can't leave, you can't go anywhere, you can't call anybody, let's just shot. And so you saw very quickly the girls that were like, all right, I'm drunk, let's take my tits out and all that. And I was like, these are the party girls, like I want to roll with them. But then simultaneously you get the girls that are more conservative, I guess would be a nicer way to label them than stick up their ass. But the conservative girls would, they were very judgmental, and they're just, as I said, remind me of high school. And they're like, these girls, like they're such sluts and whores, and I'm like, yeah, we're fun sluts and whores. So that was a very natural separation for the party girls versus the conservative girls.
Because you again have been very villainized in that show, were there any did you let anybody in on your plan? Did anybody know that what you were doing was for the cameras, or were there a couple people that maybe didn't get that memo?
Do you mean in people as far as like the other cast members?
Other cast members.
Do you mean? I didn't really tell anybody. Some of the girls started figuring it out on Charm School when I did Charm School with Sharon Osbourne, and that was really funny because what ended up happening is, so on Rock of Love, all the girls that I liked, the party girls, pretty much got sent home first, and I was stuck with all like the stick up their ass girls. And then on Charm School, I actually legitimately liked many of the girls there, so it was really hard for me on Charm School to maintain my character. Like Christy Joe I legitimately liked, and Christy Joe is really funny because she likes to get in your head, you know. And I remember one day on Charm School she was talking to me and she was like, so Lacey, I've caught little glimpses where you seem like a nice person, like, so why are you this way? Like, why? She was like all trying to psychoanalyze me, and I'm like, Christy, just shut up. It's for the show, shush, you know. But she just saw through it. Like she's very intuitive. And, you know, Brandy M I liked, and Brandy M was so cool because she basically, like, anytime I tried to fuck with her or get her riled up, she just wouldn't take the bait. She'd be like, Lacey, go fuck yourself. And she'd just walk off. I'm like, no, come back. We need the drama. But she wouldn't bite. And she's brilliant, you know. And then what did she do? She won Charm School. So there you go. So several of the girls ended up seeing through it because I couldn't bring myself to be mean to certain people or fuck with them because I just liked them.
So you were very much a method actress.
I guess that's one way to put it.
I have like probably a million questions about you and your experience, but I just need to get this out of the way because this was my biggest question. And I mean this when I say it. Is Bret Michaels, in fact, the world's first sentient boner? Because he, to me, seems like if a penis became a person.
You know, it's possible. It's really funny because now I'm not claiming to know Bret Michaels, but I will say that after Rock of Love, I ended up at his shows a number of times over the years. I've seen him a ton of times, and he's always very nice. And he always, you know, if I let any of his people know, like, hey, Lacey from Rock of Love is here, you know, he always makes sure to hook me up with backstage passes and all that. And so when I was single and going to his shows, he would hang out with me afterwards, invite me to go on the bus, have some drinks, stuff like that. There was never any fooling around. He was always respectful, never put the moves on me outside of the show, never said anything pervy, you know. He was really a gentleman, you know. And if you think about it, like with the whole Me Too movement, I'm sure there's plenty of people that still exist that are shitheads that haven't gotten called out yet. But I would imagine if you were going to hear some creepy stuff that Bret Michaels did, we would have heard it by now. Somebody would have come forward. And the fact that he has been putting himself out there so many times over and over again, and he was kind of walking the line of douchey. I don't think he crossed it on Rock of Love, but he came right up to that line, you know. And you haven't heard anything, you know. And as I said, my personal experience with him is he's been very nice. Then after I got married, my husband and I went to one of his shows, and he hooked my husband up with backstage passes. We went backstage and hung out, and he was super nice to my husband. My husband loves Bret Michaels. So it was he's really a pretty rad guy. I think I feel like most of us were like leaning into whatever character we were, and Bret was this kind of like sex crazed skirt chaser, you know. But I think he just leaned into that to make it funny and entertaining. But as I said, my personal experience with him outside of shows is he's not that way. He's definitely like silly and sweet and fun, but he's not pervy.
I think that's awesome, but like it's so crazy to me. I don't know why. It's probably because I was watching a marathon of it before, because I am making a Rock of Love video. That is what this is going toward.
Nice.
I needed your perspective on it. I was like, if there was any girl that I need, in my head, my choices were I was gonna get 3 people if I could from Rock of Love, and the first name I thought, I was like, it's got to be Lacey. Like, this isn't going to work if I don't get Lacey.
I appreciate that.
But for some reason, in the back of my mind, I just remembered those flame pajamas he wore in the one challenge.
Oh, my God, right? And, like, the bangs, the blonde bangs that he had.
Oh, God. And you have to try to talk dirty to him. And how would you do that? Like, picturing that. It's like, I just saw you. How do you want me to do this?
The thing that's so funny about it is, I'm sure everybody listening right now has engaged in some dirty talk with their significant other at some point in time. And whatever the hell it was that we were all doing was definitely, even you, whatever it was the hell that we were all doing, that was not dirty talk at all. And it was like, it's really, really funny where it went, you know.
Yeah, that challenge was amazing because I was watching it with my significant other. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and we were both like, that's got to be so awkward because not only are you on the phone with somebody who's right behind the curtain and you're supposed to arouse them, but also you're doing it in front of an audience of all of your competition.
Right,
It's
I know. And yeah, usually, Dirty Talk goes a very, very different route. Yet we had people over here that were doing poetry and British accents and all kinds of stuff. It was so amazing. It was so funny. Yeah, it was definitely awkward. And especially when they were like, oh, we are hooking him up to like a plasmograph or whatever the thing that was called. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that show, exactly how it was, could be produced and aired today, and like, could they get away with it? I always wonder that.
I think you could, but a lot of it would have to change. Like that, doing the exact things that you guys did, probably not. Which is unfortunate because it was amazing TV. But I think I even read Brett saying that he wants to bring Rock of Love back. I didn't read the article, but I read the headline with the twist. I don't know what the twist would be, but I'm on board. I mean, you just tell me when and where, you can have my money. But I really
Yeah,
I like
well,
what
I
you're
did
doing
read
though.
that too, and I think God, my memory is failing me right now, but I think he was making I don't think he means that genuinely. I think he was cracking some kind of joke
Mm.
about if I would do a twist. Shit, I can't remember what he said now, but basically he was just kind of poking fun at it. But he's always been a good sport. One thing I really respect about him is the fact that he has never, ever, ever once talked trash about any of the Rock of Love girls. And back then we were all being accused of like having STDs and all kinds of stuff, which, funny enough, we actually were all tested for that before we went on the show. We were tested for drugs, STDs, all kinds of stuff. And so we wouldn't have made it on literally had we had STDs. But that was kind of, people were very slut shamey back then. And so, but Brett, he never took the bait with that. He was always like, the girls were the ones who made the show and the girls were awesome. And he always had really good things to say about us and very respectful things to say. So I appreciate him for that.
I mean, I would have to agree with him. The thing with Flavor of Love is that Flav was such a character, and then you have this cast of characters, but I think he always kind of outshined the girls that were on that show. With Rock of Love, I feel like Brett has like anti-charisma, like he's void of personality. But that kind of made it better in a weird way because it's like it's its own unique flavor, you know? I think the
Yeah.
girls were definitely the highlight of that show.
Well, you have to remember, I mean, Brett actually is a very charismatic person, but the thing you have to remember is Flavor Flav, which, by the way, because I'm such an obsessively huge fan of music, I love Public Enemy, I loved all of that, and Flav was a hype man, so he was like, I don't want to say trained because it's something he did himself, but he was always front and center
Experienced.
in the most full throttle way he could possibly be. I mean, with the giant clock and the Viking horns and the way he talked, I mean, he was an incredible hype man. So, to have that energy, it's kind of hard to top that, And Brett, I think he is also charismatic, but in a different way. But he sort of like would let the girls have their thing. And honestly, I think that we kind of overwhelmed him at times. I think he wasn't used to like that level of drama. So I think he was kind of like, I don't even know what to do with this. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Mm. Yeah, I think Flava Flav is like a cartoon character brought to life. And
Yes.
Bret Michaels would be more of like the straight man in a comedic duo. Like he's the
Yeah.
stone face, and it's funny because of his non-reaction. So,
Yeah. I think it's a fair assessment.
were there any like hard feelings from anybody following the show? Because again, these girls, not all of them knew that you were putting on a performance and playing a character for the cameras. Like, were there any long-term like rivalries or just
Well, I will say, so for me, not really, not really. I didn't take anything that happened on the show too seriously. Now, with a couple people, there may have been some drama after the shows, but as far as from the shows itself, I was pretty much cool with everybody. I would say the only person who really like legit hates my guts, and I gotta say I don't really blame her, is Dallas, and she legit wants to see me hit by a bus, you know. And I actually reached out to her. I reached out to pretty much everybody. And you know, Dallas, I basically, I sent her an email and I said, hey, look, I just want to extend an olive branch to you. I have no hard feelings about anything. You know, I just thought we were making a fun TV show. I hope you feel the same way. With that said, I would love to invite you onto my podcast. And she was just like not having it, you know, but as I said, like, I don't blame her, you know. She was, you know, as everybody knows, she was definitely the target of me for a huge part of it, because of it all started with the animal rights stuff, you know. So she knew how to push my buttons just as much as I knew how to push her buttons. And also I was kind of looking for an arch enemy, but I knew it had to be a legitimate reason. I couldn't just go after somebody for no reason, because then it would make me not a villain but a monster, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to be a monster, you know. I wanted to be a fun villain. So like on Rock of Love 2, I thought that the way, back to Chrissy Joe again, I thought Chrissy Joe, the way she was treated was like they were basically ganging up on her. And to me, it didn't look like there was a legit reason. So I just thought it was like a jealousy thing, because Chrissy Joe is gorgeous. Same thing with Daisy, that I thought she was bullied on Rock of Love too. And they went after her like really hard. And so in my mind, it's funny because even though I was this hated villain, I still had little moral rules for myself. And one of them was, you can't go after somebody who has softer energy than you. It's the equivalent of like pick on someone your own size, but energetically. So I knew Dallas was a strong woman, you know, and I knew she could handle it. But also she gave me a reason to make her my enemy, which is when she was commenting on my animal rights activism. So, I mean, I would have defended my animal rights activism regardless, but that was perfect for the show, because I'm like, okay, here's a reason I can make her my enemy. Unfortunately, she took it personally, and as I said, I don't fault her for that. It's unfortunate, but yeah. So I think she's held it against me. I'm sure there's other girls that don't care for me, but overall, I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with most of the girls in real life.
With the animal rights activism, did you go onto the show like intentionally with the idea of promoting that? Because I didn't realize until my most recent run through that like every other episode you have another shirt on, or was that just your wardrobe?
That is actually, that's one part of my life that is very, very true and real to me. I got into animal rights when I was about 17, 18 years old. And from there, I have been very heavily involved. I founded my own dog rescue organization, Heroes Canine Rescue, that I operated for about 8 to 9 years. I went to the state capitol in California and spoke at a press conference along with former Senator Dean Flores about passing animal-friendly legislation. I've gone to city hall meetings, town hall meetings. I've gone to protests and rallies and all kinds of stuff. So I've definitely been very involved. And I sort of have the mindset of like, anytime you can use an opportunity to bring awareness to animal rights issues, you should take advantage of it. I mean, that was me talking to myself. And so like, even when I did my my band Nocturne, I was always, promoting animal rights things when I was out on tour. I knew that if there was any chance I can get it in on Rock of Love, I would take advantage of that. So it's kind of always been something I've promoted on some level whenever I get an opportunity.
And most importantly, are you actually possessed by the devil? Because that came up a lot on the show.
Only on Tuesdays.
Oh, okay. Well, not as long as it's not all the time. I'm guessing most of the episodes were filmed on Tuesdays.
Yes, the devil gives me breaks. Tuesday's a free for all. So all the debauchery happens on Tuesdays for me. So yes.
I love what you're doing with Talk of Love, and with bringing like that whole of love group together. That's really interesting to me. I haven't, unfortunately, gotten a whole lot of time to check it out. I was going to before this, but then I was like, I don't want to. She may answer a whole bunch of the questions I have for her, and then what do I have? I don't have as much to talk to her.
No worries.
So after we're done with this, I'm definitely going to go back and binge watch it. But
nice.
Talk to me a little bit about it. Like, when did you get this idea to bring everybody back together, and how was there any hostility from anybody about doing so? Because I imagine some people might want to put that behind them.
Yes, hostility. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, there was a little bit of drama at the beginning. Basically, Talk of Love was formed and first launched in February 2020. And the funny thing about it is that was literally 1 month prior to the lockdown. That was like right when the pandemic went full crazy, you know? So in a weird way, it was really good timing. It was good timing for me because it gave me something to do to preoccupy my time. It was really good timing for everybody else because it gave them something to watch and have fun with and really fully absorb while we're dealing with this insane pandemic and lockdown and all that. So I had been wanting to do some kind of podcast or show for a little while. Originally, I was thinking I wanted to do something that was a little bit more political in nature, but things had gotten so divided and polarizing in the country at the time that I was formulating this idea. I was like, this is really the wrong time to do something that's like political in nature because people are exhausted from it. It's too polarizing right now. So I decided to scrap that idea. Right around the same time period, Heather Chadwell from Rock of Love season 1 reached out to me, and she had been talking to, according to her, she'd been talking to New York about maybe doing a podcast. New York was just busy and had too many projects going on. So Heather came to me and she was like, hey, let's do a podcast together. Because at the time, Rock of Love was re-airing on VH1 on a regular basis, and they were doing, you know, marathons of all the seasons, episodes, but also, you know, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all of these like giants were showing Rock of Love again. So it was definitely generating a lot of new interests and new fans and stuff like that. So, and also it was bringing people who had watched it, you know, 13 years ago or whatever the time frame was, 16 years ago, you know, it was giving them that kind of nostalgia factor. So we're like, let's do a podcast and let's like talk about Rock of Love and answer fan questions and kind of, you know, go back and forth. So she came up to Las Vegas, which is where I live. I found a studio where we could film and someone to film us and edit and all that. And we filmed 10 episodes together. Unfortunately, Heather was looking at the podcast to air her grievances, I guess would be a way to put it. And she had said some really kind of like slanderous things about some of the other characters. And so one of the girls in particular was somebody who I was friends with. So this girl reached out to me and was like, Lacey, like, what the hell? Like, I can't believe you guys are saying this about me. But it was really, Heather was the one saying it. The girl ended up hitting us with a cease and desist, which she's not wrong. That girl was not wrong. What was said about her by Heather was fucked up. And so then I went to go talk to Heather about it, and Heather was just like, why are you taking her side? And got really mad at me, and she felt betrayed because I was saying we can't talk shit about the characters. We can't make up stories about them that may or may not be true. Like we cannot make this podcast hateful and negative. Like it can't be that, because these people also have fans too, and their fans don't want to hear that said about the person that they love. So Heather was sort of like, you're taking her side, you're not taking my side. And I'm like, look, I'm just taking the side of the podcast. You know, I'm trying to not get sued. And also I don't want to talk shit about these people. I don't want that. This isn't Rock of Love. This is something totally different. I want it to be different energy. I don't want it to be hateful, you know? But then when Heather started talking about Bret Michaels in a derogatory way, I'm like, okay, I can't be attached to this. Heather ended up getting really mad at me, and she was like, that's it, I quit. And so when she quit, I think she thought that I was going to stop doing the podcast too. But I was like, we put all this work and time into this. People really love it. Like, I'm going to keep it going. So I just basically changed the format completely, because originally it was just me and Heather kind of just, you know, shooting the shit. But when she left, that's when I turned it into interviewing all the cast members, not only of Rock of Love, but also Flavor of Love and For the Love of Ray J and I Love New York and Daisy of Love and all that. So Heather was really, really pissed that I kept the podcast going. She was really pissed that that people were enjoying it, I think. And she really kind of wanted people to like, oh, Lacey's an asshole and like stop watching. But that didn't happen. You know, Heather like really trashed me, but she kind of took it low. Like she trashed me. She trashed my husband. She kind of brought in like all this like, you know, dirty laundry that had nothing to do with the original reason that she left. And I think that instead of fans turning against me, they went like, Heather, this is kind of fucked up how you're acting. And so it sort of backfired on her. So unfortunately that happened. which is a shame because I did have a lot of fun with Heather. I loved the back and forth between me and her. The first 10 episodes, if you guys watch that, it's really fun. And you can see we really had a good time with each other. But Heather can be volatile. Heather can be volatile, and she gets angry easily. And when she was done, she was done. But she was furious that I kept the podcast going. So, I mean, she could have done her own podcast. In fact, I think she did do a podcast, but she only did it for like a couple of months and then she quit that one too. So I'm like, well, Heather, I'm not going to quit just because you quit. I'm not a quitter. I keep it going, So, yeah, so that happened, which was a shame, So I wish her well in spite of all that.
It's crazy how much drama the words of love elicit, isn't it? I think maybe that's where you went wrong.
Yeah, 100%. I know. And it's funny because it has literally the word love in there, but the love is not happening most of the time.
I think where the real money is getting a bunch of cast members from I Love Money, I Love New York, Rock of Love, Flavor of Love, and putting you guys in a house VH1 Surreal Life style for 2 to 3 weeks. I think there's something to be done with that idea, but that's just me.
Well, that's some of the stuff I'm doing with my own. I have a new streaming service, Storm TV, and I don't mean to be jumping around, but that is the goal. So Storm TV is just basically a continuation of the Talk of Love podcast. I wanted to take the podcast and not just have it on YouTube, but I wanted to have the majority of it on a new platform that could generate money to go into producing brand new shows. And so the first show I actually produced was the All Stars reunion show, which we filmed a couple of months ago. And basically I had a lot of the different of Love cast members fly to Las Vegas. I rented a venue with the stage. We had a small audience, and we basically had a big reunion show. And it was really, really cool. And it was a lot of people who haven't been on stage together or seen each other in, 15 or more years. So that was really cool. That went really, really well. It was a lot of fun. And then from there, I'm just basically creating and producing new shows, like talk show kind of things. But ultimately what I want to do is produce new of love inspired competition shows and dating shows. So ultimately that is the goal to, because right now I'm doing one-off talk shows or one-off podcasts or whatever, but I want to make it an actual show of everybody living in a house and competing and all that. So that is in the works on the schedule for this year.
I will be tuning in and possibly talking about it here.
Yay!
Question: when it came to your knowledge, I'm not sure who knows what and whatnot, but were there the eliminations? Were they predetermined by Brett or by the producers, or by the producers and Brett?
That's a good question. I think it was a little bit of both. Because I had one of the executive producers for the Of Love shows on the podcast, and he sort of hinted that it was a little bit of both. And that's kind of how I knew that I would probably be okay being this villain character, because especially everybody was like, you gotta send Lacey home, like, what are you doing? And really what it is the producers like, no, we have to keep the shit starter around, makes good TV. So I think it was a little bit of both. I think that Brett probably had some say, or on Charm School, I think Sharon Osbourne had some say, but I think the producers definitely had influence as well.
And I gotta get, they had to keep you on because, to give you your roses here, a lot of the funnest moments of Rock of Love the first season was either because of you directly or you indirectly, telling this person this or telling that person that or dragging somebody into a pool, So if you were gone, the show was just, it wasn't going to work.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, that was the main thing. And naturally, usually when a group of people gets together, they want to, especially if they're going to be living together, they want to be getting along and having fun and partying together and stuff like that. And I remember the very first day that we were filming Rock of Love, I remember I was kind of just assessing everything that was going on around me. And I remember I was hanging out with some of the girls, and this was literally within the first 5 hours of filming, and everybody was kind of getting to know each other, and some of the girls were talking, and I remember they were talking about their nails or some kind of beauty conversation. And I remember just like sitting back and watching them talk and listening to what they were saying, and then looking over at the camera operator and watching the cameraman filming them talking about nails. And I was like, oh my God, this show is going to tank. And I was so worried in that moment. I was so worried because I knew how successful and huge Flavor of Love was. And I knew how big those girls' personalities were and the types of things they talked about and did and everything. And so I'm just watching this. I'm like, oh my God, this show is going to tank. And I was really worried. So that's really, I was had already decided, I want to do the mischievous, villain character, but seeing that really solidified my game plan, which was just to like wreak havoc and make it crazy and fun.
So that was your supervillain origin story, basically.
Yes, exactly. Indeed.
I'm really surprised actually that you never got your own spin-off, because it seemed like that would have been something that was on the card, or in the cards, I should say.
It was, and I actually had that discussion with Chris Abrego and Mark Cronin, who are the two heads and founding members of 51 Minds, a production company. They wanted to give me a spinoff show, and we were playing with the idea of doing a dating show, and they wanted to call it I Love Lacey, which is like a play on words from I Love Lucy, another wild redhead. And of course, they'd already done like I Love New York and all that. So they were going to call it I Love Lacey, and have it be like a rock and roll kind of dating show, sort of like what Daisy, I think, had done. I'm sure mine would have been a bit more extreme, obviously, but yeah, we were talking about it, and the game plan was they wanted me to do I Love Money, season 3, and then they were going to give me my own show immediately after that, and that all went down the tubes because everything got canceled because of the guy Ryan Jenkins who murdered his wife after the filming of I Love Money 3. So that kind of just tanked everything.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah,
that was insanity. That was an insane period of time. So it was very unfortunate, but that was why all that came to an end. It wasn't because, all the shows were, the 51 Minds production shows were record breakers, like all of them. Like they had the highest viewers in VH1 history, and they kept breaking new records for the amount of viewers they had. The shows were so successful. VH1, the network, had given 75% of the airtime to the production company 51 Minds. So they were just like owning it. And then that just, just tanked everything. It was really, really a shame.
Reality TV died when that dude did. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was crazy. And, of course, not to mention the horrible fact that this young woman was murdered, and the fact that he obviously was suffering from some kind of mental problem. And there was people who died. Ryan, I lived with the guy for a month in the house that was I Love Money 3. So I kind of, got to know him a little bit, and it was just a crazy, crazy, sad time, not to mention so many people lost their jobs and their careers. And it was just, and we were so excited for I Love Money 3. It would have been amazing. There was one time we were filming I Love Money. There was one day where we were all just kind of chilling, and all of a sudden, all of the producers came into the room. They walked into the room and were like, hey, everybody, we want to get your attention. And we were like, what the hell is going on? Because that doesn't normally happen. So all the producers walked in, and they go, we just want to tell you guys, you are doing a great job. And this is going to be by far the most hilarious, most entertaining I Love Money of all the ones that have been filmed. And they were just singing our prayers and their praises, and they were being very encouraging and like grateful towards us. And that doesn't happen, on these shows. So we were so excited. We were so excited. And when all that happened, it was just absolutely devastating. It was devastating. It was literally like just a couple of maybe 3 weeks or so after we got home from Mexico. Oh, it was just so awful. So yeah, that was that.
I never understood that. Like I completely understand the idea of not airing that season for that reason. That makes sense to me. But then to just like say, okay, that's it. We wash our hands of all of these shows. Like, I don't know. That just seemed very extreme it seemed like an extreme response to me.
Well, there was a couple of things that happened. It wasn't really just that. What ended up happening is somebody along the way, I've heard different variations of the story, so I don't know which is the correct one, but the vague version of the story is that whoever was hired to do a background check on Ryan Jenkins, they did the background check in Canada. No, sorry, they did the background check in the United States, but Ryan was a Canadian citizen. So had they done the background check in Canada, which is where he's from, they would have found that he actually did have some kind of domestic violence charge or something already on his record. And so that would have disqualified him from the shows altogether. But because they didn't check Canada, they checked the United States, it looked clean. So somebody kind of dropped the ball. On top of that, on Rock of Love Bus, season 3 of Rock of Love, there was an incident where basically because the girls were being filmed in buses that were being driven all over the United States, the producers were working all day and then have to drive behind the buses all night. So they were getting like no time to sleep whatsoever. So apparently, allegedly, at one point, one of the producers fell asleep at the wheel in the middle of the night and crossed over the center divider and had a head-on collision with another vehicle that killed 2 girls inside that vehicle. Oh, wow. And it was because these people were overworked, and weren't having adequate time to sleep and rest. So there had been a number of things that had taken place that resulted in people dying, essentially. And I think just from like legalities, they just like VH1 just had to part ways. So that was my take on everything that happened. I'm sure there's other details that I'm unaware of. In fact, when I had Matt Odgers, who's one of the executive producers of the Of Love shows, when he came on the podcast, I had given him a list of questions that I wanted to ask. And I don't usually do that for my guests, but I knew it was gonna, I was shocked he even agreed to come on, and I knew he wasn't gonna want me to ask him about certain things. So in my questions that I gave him in advance, I wanted to get into I Love Money 3, what exactly went down, why did the Of Love shows stop, and he vetoed those questions, unfortunately. So I didn't get into that with him, but that's basically what I know about it.
Okay, I have 4 questions here from Sandy, who is a fan of this channel.
Nice, hi Sandy.
Had 4 questions directly for you. Hold on, let me.
All right. Should I be nervous?
Sandy,
you're gonna be nice or not nice to me? I'm just kidding. I can handle it.
No, they're nice, but she's nice. But these are not questions that were on my slate of questions.
That's okay. I welcome the difficult questions.
Okay. Reading directly from this. What really happened that night in the room with you, Brett, Heather, and Brandy C? And then in parentheses, she wrote, there was some suggestion of some foreplay on the show.
Yes. Okay. So unfortunately, this is going to be a sucky answer, but I have a personal rule about this.
You might want to watch your words.
What's that?
You might want to watch your words on that one.
Yeah, no, I know, right? No pun intended. Exactly. Yes. Okay. So here's my thing with that. First of all, on the podcast, I'm very, very open about my sexuality. I speak very freely about it. I think it's important to set that example, that especially like trying to get rid of any kind of like taboo that like men can be sexual, but if women are sexual, they're sluts and whores and stuff like that. So for that reason, I'm very open and honest about my sexuality. However, unless I have the person in the room with me to talk about things we may or may not have done as far as sexual, activities, I'm very, very careful about not outing somebody, especially if they have a relationship or whatever, because if you think about it, if the roles were reversed and I was a dude and I was like, yeah, I bagged her, I banged her, I would be a douchebag, and so anytime people do like tell-alls where they're like, oh, I had sex with that person and that, whatever, it's always like a shitty move unless you specifically get that person's permission to talk about it. And again, especially if that person has a significant other, which Bret Michaels does. So out of respect, I don't like to get into that too much, but I can say, now I'm not a weed smoker. I've done other things, I've had my days of partying, but I was just never a pot smoker. Not against it, but just not for me. And I know there was like some of that going on in the room. People like, I think it was me, Heather, Brandy C, and Brett, and I think that's it. Unless there was was there another girl? I don't think there was. But yeah, so they were like smoking pot, having fun, partying, being silly. I remember we were listening to music because we like never get to listen to music during the filming because then they have to get like the rights for the music and all that. So I really missed music. So the camera people were out of there. So we had some fun, and out of respect for people who aren't here to give their permission, that's as far as I can say.
I think that, you know what, that's a very respectful answer. That's very valid. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
The next couple
Now,
questions.
if you want to ask me about my own sexual adventures and with leaving out people's names, I'm an open book. But yeah, when it's I don't name names because I think it's rude and disrespectful.
I have a very similar nature to me too, so that's completely valid. Okay, so the next question. Again, these are her questions, not mine. Don't hate
Lay it on me, Sandy.
How did it feel to get manhandled by Rodeo is the second question.
I love that question. Dude, Rodeo is a badass. That was a slick move, and it definitely bruised my ego, and it was unexpected. It was 100% real. It was really funny because, basically to give it context, I was, Dallas and I were going back and forth, and she was, poking at me, metaphorically speaking. I was doing the same to her. And at one point we were going up the stairs, and she was standing next to the railing, and I basically had one arm on either side of her, and I was holding on to the railing. And it was funny because, I will say, given the fact that I'm an animal person, I was raised with horses, so I'm used to handling horses. I'm used to, every dog I've either had or fostered was either like a Great Dane or a pit bull or whatever. So I'm used to holding on to something. So I've got, whether it's reins or a leash or whatever, I definitely have a strong grip. And so the other girls were trying to like pull my arms off of the banister. And then it kind of just became a pissing contest at that point. And then when Rodeo came up behind me, and I don't know what that move was, but it was like, I didn't even see it coming. It was like, I was there. The girls were trying to pull my arms off of the railing. And next thing you know, I'm like face down on the stairs. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And it was really, in the moment, it totally bruised my ego. I'll be honest. But it was brilliant on Rodeo's part. I was very, very impressed with that.
To your credit, though, you did play it off really well. You were like, I'm fine. Like,
yeah.
I don't. Like, you just got right back up. You were like, I didn't touch anybody. I'm fine.
Yeah, and the other thing too is we have to be careful. I mean, I'm not really a fighter anyway, as far as like physically fighting. That's not really my style. I always say that people have to punch people are just too stupid to come up with the words to say out of their mouth, and I'm such a smart ass. Like, I don't need to throw punches. Like, my mouth will do all the damage, and so, but that said though, it was really drilled into us. Like, you cannot hit people. If you do, you'll be sent home. And so I had to be careful, like what I did with the girls to make sure I wasn't crossing any sort of line of anything physical. Not, as I said, not that I really would have anyway, but with Rodeo, I mean, there was really like, what else could I have done? I kind of had to just laugh it off. I mean, what was I gonna, like, you bitch, or like, what could the response been from me that would have worked in that moment? There really wasn't one. Rodeo won. She got one over on me. It was pretty impressive. So I just kind of had to like laugh it off and tuck my tail and walk away.
Question 3 from Sandy. Did you really get hurt on that football challenge, or were you playing it up for attention from Brett or the cameras?
Good question, Sandy. Yes, I got really, really hurt. And it's really funny because afterwards, after the show, we get like, it's really funny being on the receiving end of the internet when you're on a show like that. And my character and just me as a person, I'm very polarizing. People either love me and they think I'm fantastic and they think I'm a badass, or they think I'm just the most vile human being that ever walked the earth, and I kind of get like one or the other kind of person about me. So a lot of people who were like the haters, as they say, were making fun of me, saying I couldn't walk in heels. And I'm like, no, dude, I had a sprained ankle, like fully sprained. Like, my ankle was like the size of a grapefruit, and I only had heels. I shouldn't have been walking on it anyway. And I was wearing heels. I didn't really have like flat shoes. And I remember I asked the producers to go get crutches for me, and they did. And it hurt so bad. Like, I don't know if you were watching crutches, but it like rubs your underarms raw. So that wasn't working either. And, but yeah, it was like legit sprained. It was really, really, really painful, and it blew up gigantic. And it was like that for about 6 more weeks. So it was bad.
Okay. And Sandy's last question. Thank you for that, by the way. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
jump from question to question. It's easier when they're mine because I know where they go, but this is somebody else's. The last
No
question
way.
is much easier. It's you didn't seem upset when you were eliminated, were you?
Right. So yeah. Here's the thing. I it was awkward because I didn't love Brett. I liked him. I thought he was a really cool person. But like even in real life, I can be a little bit guarded when it comes to letting people in too much. Like I'm always open when it comes to being social and getting to know people, but like when it comes to really bringing people in close, whether it's a new best friend or a new working relationship or a potential partner, I bond slowly. I'm just, I'm very, I've been wounded in my days. So I go slow with people, and so I wouldn't have, even if Brett was like fully available and this was like a real dating show, I just don't fall in love with people that quickly. Like it takes me a little bit of time, and I really liked Brett. I could tell like this is somebody I'd totally be friends with. Like he's got a fun personality. He's silly, I like that. But also I was so exhausted. Like by the end of it, I was really tired. I missed my dogs. I was ready to go home. I only lived like unlike a lot of the other girls, I literally lived like 20 minutes away. So I'm like, I just want to go home and eat some Taco Bell and snuggle with my dogs. So I was kind of like, I would have liked to. I figured I wasn't going to win the show, but I kind of was hoping to make at least a second place just because I am competitive. So I was bummed that I was eliminated then, but I was grateful that I made it to the final three, and I was just kind of ready to go home. So when I was doing the exit interview, I sort of, it was late and I was so tired, and I kind of like forgot to keep the character going. And I remember the producers asking me specifically, like, do you love Brett? They were trying to get me to say like, I loved him. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm like, I just want some Taco Bell and a bed, and my dogs. So I sort of was just kind of over it at that point, and that's probably why I didn't seem upset. I really wasn't upset. I wish I had gotten to say one more, but I was grateful for my time there, and I couldn't do the acting job any longer. I just wanted to go home.
How long were you like? How long did you have to try to fall in love with Bret Michaels? Like,
I think we were there for about a month, if my
okay,
memory serves me correctly. Obviously, it depends on when you get eliminated, but I personally was there for about a month.
and there was only like one episode after, well,
Yeah, there was
outside
just
of
a
the
couple,
reunion.
like a day or two left. That was it. Yeah,
Oh God, that's crazy to be away from
it was a
everything
lot.
for like a month, and you're not allowed to use your phone or any. Oh,
Yeah,
I
that
couldn't
was
do
weird.
it.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because there was a phone there. You could make and receive calls
But they were
if
all
you needed
recorded,
to.
right?
They were all recorded. So it was so weird, like trying to have conversations with your loved ones, like, how are you? I am fine. How about you? I am fine too. Because you can't talk, and you can only talk about like superficial things because you don't want to end up on the freaking TV. So you can't really, talk about anything with your loved ones. It's really weird trying to keep up with people knowing that it's being recorded and could potentially end up on a show. So yeah, it was definitely it was a crazy adventure. I'll
It
say that.
it really sounds like it's like prison, except instead of being confined to jail, you're confined to a mansion, which is a step up, sure, but you don't really get the privacy you'd probably want.
Yeah, and to be honest, like in my normal life, I am always such a busy person. I'm one of these people that just thrives in being busy. And so I'm used to, and I've always kind of been like the captain of my own ship, so to speak. Like when I, had my band, I literally, wrote the music and I was the front woman, but I also booked the tours and did the contracts and did the deal with the record company and got the merchandise. And like, I was just doing everything, and same thing with the streaming service. I'm doing so many different things for the streaming service to keep that going. I'm wearing so many hats and doing so many different roles. Or when I did the dog rescue, I was, being the dog's photographer and promoter, but also rescuing them and taking them to the vet and making sure they're cared for. So I've kind of always been that person. And so, yeah, to have like to be suddenly just stripped of everything, it was an adjustment for sure. It was weird. It was a little prison. Like, I mean, now granted you are in a beautiful house and a beautiful view and all that, but not getting to leave
And
and
Bret
go
Michaels
do
is the
stuff was
warden.
weird. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was trying at times, I would say.
Mm. We're because there was a lot of drama on the show there, and there's obviously there's fact and fiction, I think, and I think that's what makes those shows so great, is because they kind of found a nice way to blend the two. And like years later, you have people going, "Well, that part has to be fake, right?" Or that's real, you know. So I think that's really interesting. But were any of the fights, like for example, the one that comes to mind for me is the argument you and Heather had in front of your father. Like, was
Your
that
daughter's a
staged? Yeah, was
slut.
that staged?
My dad's like, yeah, I already knew that, and well, so my dad was it's interesting. I actually don't have a relationship with my dad right now, which is a totally different topic. But
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
my dad is he is a narcissist, and I don't mean that in like as an insult. I mean like he is a clinical
Clinical.
narcissist, and I didn't become aware of that until like maybe 5 years ago, and then I started putting all the pieces together like, wait a second, maybe my dad wasn't the best dad. And it sucks because I lost my mom when I was 27 years old suddenly, and that was incredibly devastating for me
I'm sorry to
because
hear
my mom
that.
and I were, oh, I appreciate you saying that, we were really 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 close. Like my mom and I had like almost identical personalities. So when she died, I sort of just kind of like, well, I guess there's my dad, and I kind of just latched on to him. But over time, I realized like this is not a healthy relationship. If anybody out there has currently or has had a relationship on any level with a narcissist, they understand it's very difficult, very very difficult, and very damaging. So my dad and I don't speak anymore. That was my choice, not his. But I will say that at the point of the show, one thing I can say positive about my dad is that he definitely always understood the free spirit that I am. I was always in rock bands. I mean, I sang for the band Lords of Acid the year, let's see, 2010, and literally we have a song called Pussy, and it's just a silly kind of tongue-in-cheek song. So I've just kind of always been that person. So when he came on the show, he wasn't expecting that, that's for sure. And nobody wants to be called out like that in front of their own father. It sucks, but he did brush that off. But I will say the producers really really wanted me and Heather to have some kind of huge fallout like that, like a huge clash of the titans, so to speak.
Mm.
So I remember the producers coming to me a couple of times, and like when it was the final three, it was me, Heather, and Jess. And I think actually this even started when Brandy M was still there, but definitely after Brandy M left, the producers would kind of whisper in my ear like, hey, so Heather, you should really target her, da da da. And then I found out later from Heather that they were kind of doing the same thing to her. But I kind of was like liking that we were like this power duo as far as friends on the show. So I really wasn't wanting to go to war with Heather. But at the same time, being competitive, I knew that I had to do something if I was going to get into that second place slot. I knew I was going to have to throw her under the bus at some point. So at one point, I was alone with Brett, and I was saying something about Heather that was to try to, show her in not such a flattering light in front of Brett, so I could get that second place spot. And then I think I was talking about her being a stripper. I can't remember what exactly I was saying, but whatever it was, Heather later told me, like when I say later, I mean after the show was done filming, she told me that the producer was coming to her going like, Heather, go outside right now, listen, go stand on the balcony, you can hear Lacey, she's talking shit about you right now, and you need to confront her. And so they sent Heather over, and then sure enough, but Heather had been drinking, so she was like already kind of open to whatever and loose, as alcohol makes you. And it was just like bam, she just hit me like a freaking bull. So it definitely threw me off guard in that moment, given the fact that our parents were there. I wasn't trying to like scream and have drama like that in front of my dad and his wife. It was a little uncomfortable, but yeah, that was definitely like a little bit of like the producers kind of pulling the strings. It definitely naturally happened. That fight was real, but it was definitely sort of facilitated, if you will, by the producers.
That's so fun. Me and my girlfriend were watching that episode, I think either last night or maybe it was earlier today. And we noticed that there was part where she's talking to Jess. I think Heather was talking to Jess, and Jess is just sitting there eating a big old bowl of air. Like mimicking that she's eating something, but like the camera shot is showing that there's clearly nothing in the bowl. So how something that my girlfriend has called Plategate.
That's really funny. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that, because the only thing I can think of is maybe Jess had finished her food, but was just trying to like not engage or something like that. I don't. I'm gonna have to go back and look, because I don't know about that one. That's really funny though.
Oh, my question was going to be like, did they ever just like get a couple of you guys together and go, okay, so this is what we need, or was it like, were they kind of more manipulative to you guys, like, and pulled you aside here, do this, this, and that, or somebody said this, or was it a combination of the two?
No, it was definitely the second one, how you described it. They were a bit more manipulative. They never really outright said we need this or we need that, generally speaking. So it was more kind of like manipulation tactics, or they just let a situation just go the way it naturally would otherwise. But yeah, that's primarily, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. That's definitely good information I have for this video. I don't want to get too much into your dad, especially considering what you said.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind.
Just the last question regarding him. There was this weird backstory between him meeting Brett on a plane that I don't know how well the show kind of articulated that, because even by the end of the episode, I went back and I rewound it and I still was like, what the fuck is the story here?
So that is actually true. And so my dad, he, for his line of work, he ended up flying around the country often, and usually almost like on a weekly basis. He was always on a plane flying to some city somewhere to do his work. So he actually did end up sitting next to Bret Michaels. My dad is not really into like the same kind of rock music that I was, so he knew it was clearly like a rocker person, but he didn't know who it was. And I think they just struck up a conversation, started talking. He learned this is the singer of some band called Poison, and he was like, my daughter Lacey probably would love this. When that happened, I was very, very young. I mean, I think I was probably like 13 or 14 years old or so. Mm-hmm. So I remember my dad had this book that he just happened to be reading, and he got Brett to sign the book, and then he brought it to me. So when that got brought up, I had actually forgotten that had happened. And I remember at one point Brett was asking me like, why didn't you tell me about that? Why weren't you honest? I'm like, honestly, it was such an insignificant moment, and it was so long ago. I was such a kid, and it just seemed like it would be a weird thing. Like, hey, Brett, guess what? My dad was on a plane with you once a long time ago. Like, oh, okay, cool. And then what happened? Like, that's it. That's the end of the story. Like, I didn't really feel like I would be like revealing anything with that. And it didn't even cross my mind. I just didn't think it was anything to bring up, So I think they tried to make something out of that from like a plot standpoint, but it just wasn't. But that definitely did happen. It was true for sure.
That's crazy. It's crazy to me that he would remember him. Like, of all the people that he meets, he's like, yeah, like 15 years ago, I met this guy on a plane. Of course I remember him.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brett, especially back then, he's got this like long blonde hair, and he definitely like doesn't fit into your average person who would fly on a plane. You know what I mean? So he would stand out. So
no, I meant your dad to Brett. Like, Brett was like, oh yeah, I remember this guy.
Yeah, I was, I don't think that Brett did remember that. I think that what happened was my dad brought it up as like a conversation piece, like, hey, I met you on a plane a long time ago. And then Brett was like, you did? And I was like, oh yeah. So I just had forgotten about it, to be honest.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense. Oh, the chat is surprisingly nice for one night.
Oh,
it must be because of you.
What's that?
I said it must be because of you.
Well, as I said, I never know what I'm going to get. I either get people who are like super sweet, super supportive, or like the Lacey Lynch squad. It's like one or the other. And honestly, I'm okay with both. So it's all good.
I think it was the great Gene Simmons that once said, no press is bad press.
This is true. Well, also, if you put yourself out there, it's unrealistic to go like, everybody must love me. Like, that's just not going to happen, and you hope that the people who don't like you take some kind of mercy and pity on you, but it's part of it. As long as I always tell this to people who are either aspiring to be in entertainment, or sometimes I talk to people who are already in entertainment and are having a hard time dealing with haters, and I just tell them, as soon as you accept that it's part of it, and you're not going to be doing this job without that, it all goes together. Just like if you want to own a home, then you're going to have to deal with a mortgage, and you're going to have to deal with maintenance. There's just certain things that come with it, Same thing as putting yourself in the public eye. You're going to have fans, of course. Everybody loves fans, who doesn't want fans? But you're going to have people who not only are not your fan, but really hate your guts and will probably want to tell you. So as soon as you can accept that and make peace with it and know this is part of it, then the sooner you can be okay with that and live with that and not be affected personally by it.
There's also something to be said for being hated, because, like, for example, if you weren't as hated as you were on that show, you wouldn't have made the impact that you did and stayed there for as long as you did, and also came back a bunch of times, so...
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I agree with that. Yes.
So how has everything been into this transition into YouTube? Like, how's the feedback been from people who catch your YouTube channel?
It's been surprisingly positive. So I started, as I said, in February 2020. I have been doing this literally every single week. I'll take a week off here or there, but every single week for the past, almost 2 years now. And I don't have all the episodes up on my YouTube channel. I do have all the episodes up on Storm TV. I have done about 65, almost 70 interviews with different Of Love characters. And I left a handful of them up on my YouTube channel just so people could, check it out. But yeah, it's been really, when we started this, and when I say we, when it was me and Heather, but then when Heather left, and even when I continued it, I really wasn't sure if people were even going to want to give it a chance, because I was so hated on the show by so many. I just assumed people were going to be like, oh, fuck that bitch. I don't want to hear what she has to say. But surprisingly, a lot of people were like, okay, hang on, let's give this a chance. Let's see what she has to say. And on the podcast, I'm very much just myself, my true self, my true personality. I wanted to do that. I didn't want to do the Rock of Love Lacey. To be honest, when Rock of Love first aired, that was 2007. Life was pretty good in 2007 for the majority of us, as far as like politically, as far as like economically, as far as like from a society, just generally, like life was pretty good. We could afford to have a villain. But in 2020, it was not, even before the pandemic, I felt there was already too many villains in real life. Like, I don't need to be another villain in the year 2020. I'm just going to be myself. And so people were very receptive to that. I was very appreciative of that, but they listened. I got, I would say, like 95% love on there. I know they don't show like the thumbs ups and the thumbs downs anymore on YouTube channels, but I used to get consistently like 97 to 99% thumbs ups. People really, really liked what I was doing. In the first couple of years, I got about 14,000 subscribers without really putting anything into like marketing or advertising or anything like that. It was just kind of word of mouth. So I was very pleasantly surprised at how receptive. I was honestly expecting like a little bit more hate. And of course that does come and go as well, but overall it's been very positive.
Oh, that's good to hear. Can you go into detail just a little bit more about what Storm TV is, not just for the people watching, but for me who's going to sign up or do whatever I need to do immediately after this?
Oh, thank you. Well, Storm TV, it's a streaming service. Right now it's just available online, but I am currently developing apps for it, which is a little bit of a process, but they are being developed. So coming, hopefully, I was really aiming for like January, February, but it might be February, March now, just because it takes many weeks to get the apps developed. So I'm going to have an mobile app for both iPhone and Android, and then I'm going to have I'm going to start out with the TV app for Amazon Fire Stick, but eventually I'm going to get into Roku and all that. But it's also expensive, so it's going to be a little bit of a one step in front of the other. So, but right now, if you go to the website stormtv.online, or you can also go stormtv.stream, either one will take you to the same place. It's basically a streaming service. So there's like as I said, there's right now I've got Talk of Love, so I have over 60 interviews. Most of them are between like 45 minutes and an hour long with all the different of love characters. I also have a podcast called What the French, which is with Farah and Ashley from Rock of Love Bus, which is really funny. I have the All Stars Reunion Show, which is the actual show, which is a reunion of a lot of the big of love characters from each of these shows. So there's all kinds of stuff on there. So it's $4.99 a month. If you get, a 3-month deal or 6-month deal or more, then obviously you're going to get it cheaper. And basically all of the money that's coming in through the paying subscribers, monthly subscribers, that money is going right back into the streaming service, because I am going to start producing of love inspired dating shows and competition shows and more this year. So that's in the near future. I also just did a new talk show with Daisy from Rock of Love 2 and Daisy of Love, and also Marcia from Rock of Love Bus, that those girls live here in Las Vegas as well. So we have a new talk show called From Vegas with Love. And basically it's going to be a rotation of like anybody from the of love shows who either lives here or is visiting here can come on this onto the talk show From Vegas with Love, where we literally dissect all the shows, Rock of Love, Flavor of Love, all that. But we also talk about just like our life and, relationships and pop culture and celebrity stuff and, all that. So it's really fun. There's a lot of content on there, and I'm always adding new stuff. So definitely go check it out. Just, $5 and you're in.
I am absolutely in. And I'm also going to, because there's going to be a couple videos, I call this my cycle of celebriality. My plan is to go through everything, Flavor of Love, Rock of Love, every season, Charm School. And I think what I'm going to do at the end of each of them is I'm going to give a shout out to Storm TV and let people know that this way, you can still see your favorite fictional real world characters.
That's so nice.
Oh, no, I appreciate you coming on. This means a lot to me. This is a huge help for my video.
Of course, absolutely. Well, I'm very happy to do it. I'm so stoked that you reached out to me, and I love what you're doing. By the way, my husband thinks you are so cool too, because my husband loves the whole world. He loves, all the comic stuff. I always go see Marvel movies with him and DC movies. And in fact, I even know the difference between Marvel and DC is because of him. And he's definitely opened my eyes up to that whole world. And he loves Star Wars. And so like you and him could probably kick it and talk for like 5 hours about all this stuff. Like he loves all this, so.
I would love to meet him.
We're definitely both fans of what you're doing, for sure.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah.
Another big question I have is... this pertains to the first season of Rock of Love. I wanted to get 2 more perspectives. Is there anybody you think I should specifically reach out to do this type of thing with as well?
Like for Rock of Love season 1?
Yeah.
One person I haven't been able to get on the podcast, and I think everybody would love to hear from her because she's such a crazy personality, is Rodeo. I actually tried to invite her on the podcast, but I kind of got shut down. I think Rodeo might have some hard feelings towards me as well, besides Dallas. But she is hysterical and has such a big personality. So I think Rodeo would have some unique perspectives. Jess, it really sucks because everybody wants to hear from Jess, but she sort of like disappeared. Like she doesn't want anything to do with any of it. She kind of like hid her profiles on social media and all that. But Brandy M is really, she's such a great person. She would be a great person to talk to because she is so grounded, and she's so level-headed. Plus she also did Charm School with Sharon Osbourne as well. So Brandy M would be an excellent person to talk to. That's let's see, who would be another recommendation? Rodeo, Brandy M. Gosh, that's a good question. I think those would be maybe Sam. Sam is very analytical and very honest. And she also has a unique perspective because I was coming in from a place of like, this is a TV show, let's make a fun show. But she was coming from a place of way, way more vulnerability and realness. The Sam that was on the show was the Sam you got. And she kind of looked at everything as like, this is, yeah, maybe it's a show, but this is also actually happening. So from that perspective, it is real life too. So she was very, very exposed and very vulnerable. So she's an open book, and I just love her so much. So she would be a good person to talk to as well. That would be my picks for season 1.
So Sam Rodeo and
Brandy M.
Brandy M. Right, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, those are good names. I'm gonna look into them sometime this week. If you...
I would say Jess, if you are able to get Jess, I would 100% say Jess. But I think she is just not wanting anything to do with anything. Like you can't even really. Somebody found her husband's profile. I reached out to her through her husband because there literally was like no other way to reach her. She's just like, really just kind of pull the plug on all of that.
I'll send one of my messenger pigeons.
Yes, you should. Not a bad idea.
I want to thank you once again for showing up here. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the final product of the video of Rock of Love, which hopefully will be up sometime in February. Fingers crossed.
Nice. You're so welcome.
And if you're ever available again, at some point I'm going to have to cross the field into a charm school, so I could use another perspective on that once again.
Yes, well, I'm here. You are more than welcome to reach out to me anytime. And if you ever need any assistance connecting with somebody in particular, I may have their contact information. So feel free to reach out to me for anything you may need.
Thank you kindly. Is there anything you want to end this stream with to my lovely audience watching?
I don't think so. Go adopt a dog from an animal shelter and don't wear fur. And other than that, that's it. Be good to each other, stay safe, and hail Satan. There you go.
All right. Well, with all that being said, those watching, I was your least favorite YouTuber, V Infuso. This was... How did your intro go again?
Oh, Lacey motherfucking Skulls.
There we go. I wanted to get that out. I was supposed to do that in the beginning, but...
No worries.
All right. And I hope y'all join us in the next one. Have a good one.
Indeed.